Let's go ahead and call the Tempe City Council Work Study Session to order for June 14, 2017. Welcome here. It's a Wednesday. It's a little bit out of order, but given our summer month, we tried to get one more in. The first item on our agenda is our call to the audience regarding the issue review session items. Audience members have up to 3 minutes to address the City Council. If you would like to speak on an item, could you please fill out a speaker's card, which can be found in the back of the room, and please hand it to our city clerk. I'll call your name, and it's your turn to speak. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the City Council? If so, could you come forward by providing your name and city of residence for the record? I do have one card. Oh, that's for Cal. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address us under the issue review session under items 2A through item 2C? Could you please get my attention? 2A. Yes, Mr. Jacobs. Yes, please come forward.
I didn't fill out a card.
It's okay.
That was required.
It's been a while since you...
Might take more than my 3 minutes.
There you go.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, the last time I was here, you weren't here. You messed up my whole speech. But this time, I didn't make a speech. Okay, I'm Arthur Jacobs. I live in Tempe, Arizona. Okay, what I did this time was to try to clarify for you folks, the elected officials, what a common man is. And so I looked up some definitions on Google and there on the web. And there's things like this: a person who holds no title. And then the one I like the best: the average citizen is contracted with the social, political, and cultural elite. And so here are our conclusions. You know, we're still trying to get things named for Joe. So here are our conclusions. Both the Transportation Commission and now the Historical Preservation Commission have negative results for you. They've said no. That's because they don't understand what a common man is. Partly because we failed to sell them the idea of the common man. So this time I provided you with some definitions, the people who are elected officials. It is time to do something for the common man. Now you know, is the average citizen as contrasted with the social, political, or cultural elite. That's what the common man is. He's not a mayor, he's not a president, he's not a vice president, he's not the president of a school. He's a person in this city that does a lot for nothing, just to satisfy his own self. So I hope tonight we convince the elected officials with this paper we could do this. We could name Joe's Tempe Council Chambers. That's what we turned down tonight. That'd be pretty good. People want to know who's Joe. So you put a little footnote down there and say he's a common man. He's like most of the people in Tempe, common people. Or sounds good. And Joe almost lived here without pay, right in this building. You know, he spent a lot of time here. We can name Joe's Mill Avenue Bridge. People want to know who Joe is. Well, you have a little footnote there. It'd say Joe Pospisos. Joe's Kyrene Canalway. Joe's Pier Point down here at Rio Salado. And then we could also name Joe's and Epley Drive, if you didn't want to get rid of the Epley Drive. You know, you can get rid of people's names that have already been named, and so you can put them on there, but now we leave Joe's. That's where Joe lived. That's where he straightened out the school traffic. Or you could call Joe's Bicycle Crossing Point on Broadway, big yellow sign there. Use footnotes to describe who Joe is, or perhaps you, the elected officials, can make this decision without the assistance of unelected officials. We don't like the idea, as Judge Bork says, one day will be run by unelected officials. Both times, the Transportation Commission and now the Historical Commission will tell you, oh, we disagree with this. I think it's time for you people to make your own decisions. So I'll leave these papers with you, and you can copy them and hand them out. And I probably took less than 3 minutes this time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Art.
I hope you read the paper and you
Thank you.
Make a decision. If not, we'll be back many more times as long as we are living.
Okay.
I'm now 84. Might live another year or two. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Art. Is anyone else in the audience wishing to address us under the items listed on the issue review session? Yes, Mr. Martinez.
Hello, my name is Mario Martinez. I live in Tempe, and I am here to address Agenda Item 2C, which is the Code of Conduct. This, of course, is about the latest Kobe Granville ethics charge, which started on April 6th in these council chambers. I took a picture of Kobe and posted it online. Then Kobe got a copy of it, and the next morning he reposted it online to many viewers. He added that he was getting pursued by a, quote, psycho stalker who took the photo. The outside counsel investigated and reported on these actions. When controversial situations like this happens, it's very important not to get personal. The only issue here is Kobe's conduct as a public official. As a public official, his record includes the following actions. As far as ethics violations are concerned, Kobe Granville is a repeat offender. When Kobe used the, quote, psycho slur, he was acting like an incredibly bigoted towards the mental health community. While Kobe was once reprimanded for his employee abuse actions, quite frankly, a significant number of city employees continue to state that Kobe has frequently acted like an abusive goon towards them in the workplace. Finally, by informing the Tempe police that what he publicly wrote about being pursued about a, quote, psycho stalker, when he told them that that was not true, Kobe demonstrated why many people consider him to be an unethical weasel as far as telling the truth is concerned. Kobe's, quote, psycho stalker allegation was so sensational, it had to be reviewed by the Tempe police. These council chambers are supposed to have a strong security presence. It was up to the Tempe police to determine the veracity of Kobe's, quote, psycho stalker claim. The police did that job very well. I appreciate it. I am not a mentally ill stalker, but I am a victim of a violent crime in Tempe. As a result of this crime, I was left with lifelong but non-life-threatening medical injuries that I'm still paying for today. A Tempe police officer and the Tempe diversity director are aware of this incident and have reviewed the photographic evidence of this. This incident was started when I was referred to in obscene sexual and racial terms for speaking Spanish. The Tempe police officer who reviewed this incident years later said it would have been investigated as a hate crime if it had happened today. With this background, as a violent crime victim, it explains why I refuse to tolerate a public official who publicly states false and potentially criminal allegations against me. The council should reprimand Kobe again, exactly like they did last time. Hopefully, he will learn more this time around. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Granville.
First off, Mario, just a couple of things I'd like to correct from a factual standpoint. The main one being is that, in fact, everything you're referring to was taken down on my own volition within 2 hours because I thought, you know what, not going to worry about this one. So the things you're talking about are things that I chose to edit myself on very quickly. The second thing I would say is I would consider it a point of personal favor if you would, in the future, not post the home address of my family members on the internet and not come by my house. I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
I'd just like to interject that I didn't go by your house that I know of.
So you and I disagree.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
Is anyone else in the audience wishing to address this body on any of the items listed on the issue review sessions, items 2A through 2C? Could you please get my attention? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the public process. First item on our agenda is the Joe Pospisil Jr. naming request.
Evening, Mayor, Council, Chad Weaver, Community Development. Just a very brief report on the latest with this issue. As you know, and it was mentioned earlier, the Transportation Commission considered this, and one of the items requested was the renaming of this chamber that we're in now, due to the fact that the building is historically designated. That was referred to Community Development's Board, the Historic Preservation Commission. They considered the item on their meeting on April 11th. Basically determined that based upon the standards and the procedures as the city has now established them, that did not meet the minimum standard, and recommended against naming these chambers for Mr. Pospisil.
So the recommendation is denial. I do know that, I think Art left. He did mention that he's looking at other opportunities to name certain buildings after him, and by doing so, I know, Chad, if you could, what's before us is the item of renaming the council chambers. Historic Preservation Commission said doesn't fit the criteria. I agree with that. But there's other items. I know Art requested that the Water Utilities Department be named after Mr. Pospisil. He mentioned some other ones. But before we do that, though, since I know you mentioned to us, or me, that on August 10th, that we're going to be coming back to an August 10th work study session to look at the naming requirements for just exactly what we're discussing today. So any future naming, I think we should hold that until we have the August 10th work study session on the processes and procedures for naming requests. That's what I would be, Councilman Granville.
Question, and maybe I'm misremembering. I feel like we had this exact conversation like 3 or 4 weeks ago, when came to the exact same conclusion 3 or 4
But
weeks ago.
he tried again.
So
instead
he
of
added it to
naming,
the agenda. Oh, it's a new location.
it's a new location.
So let me ask this. I conceptually, I agree with you, Mayor, that we need to follow our process. The thing I would say is I understand why they're frustrated. I think it's fair to say that Mr. Pospisil came to the council meetings. If he isn't the most frequent member of the public to have attended in the last 10 or 15 years, he's got to be in the top 5 or 10. And so I'm happy to wait if that's what the body thinks is fine. But I think my own personal opinion is I feel like Mr. Pospisil felt like he was always sort of watching council, that was his role as a sort of active citizen. And while sometimes we agreed and sometimes we disagreed, he always felt like, I'm paying attention. And so my suggestion would be, as part of this thing that we're looking at, is maybe we talk about naming like a chair after him, because at a certain level, I feel like he would want to feel like he was always in the room watching the meetings as well and being a part of that. And that's not the whole room, it's not the whole building, it's not the whole water treatment plant, because really the role he played, I think, I agree with the citizenship argument. He played a very important role as an individual citizen that sat there and paid attention. And I think he would want that to be reflected as sort of his chair or his place that he...
I mean, there's a lot of ideas. I think we'll vet that out on August 10th. But also, like, it's not unbecoming of an individual to purchase a tree and plant a tree in a park
Sure.
and have a plaque there as well.
I think that would be fine too.
That's something that could also come about. So.
Sure. If there's...
Councilmember QV?
But I just want to reaffirm, because Councilmember Granville mentioned this idea last time, and I think it really is a good idea. And considering that we're going to be renovating the chambers and purchasing new seats and all, the idea of some sort of plaque or some sort of inscription. Although I really would emphasize that I would like to see non-gendered language, not to be, just to have the common man wouldn't really. I mean, the idea of a watchdog.
Common person.
A watchdog rather
Yeah.
than the common man. If there was some kind
whatever.
of a language, it should be
Watchdog,
non-gendered. But I think
that
that,
comes
I
with
know
definition.
they haven't been approached with that idea. I don't know if they've responded, but
But
to
we
me that
can't-
does seem.
Without their consent and without the
Of course,
family's
yeah.
consent, we can't do anything
Yeah.
at this point, other than take the action before us is the Historic Preservation Commission is recommending denial of the naming request. So with that, until we hear back from them, which I'm sure we will, Mr. Jacobs, he has a request in for the Water Utilities Department. That may not be the most appropriate either. I mean, that's something I'm sure that we can discuss, because otherwise we're going to be naming, everything's going to get named, and there is a process I think we need to follow. Is that consensus?
Yep, I'm
Okay.
good with that.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
All right, next item is Achieve60AZ goal. This is exciting. I was at the Flynn Foundation this afternoon, and we were talking just about this topic at their board meeting.
All right, well, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Marie Raymond. I'm the Education, Families, and Youth Development Manager in Human Services. I'd like to introduce Erin Eccleston, who is Vice President for Community Engagement with Expect More Arizona. And in the audience, we have from ASU, Nicole Taylor, who is Deputy Vice President and Dean of Students, and Corey Woods, former Tempe Vice Mayor and current Deputy Chief Operating Officer at ASU Prep. So this presentation will provide an overview of the Achieve60AZ initiative and the Expect More Arizona Progress Meter. Staff and partners will present to Council for consideration the approval of a Tempe degree attainment goal of 65% by 2030 and the proposed use of the progress meter to align the city's strategic priorities and education performance measures. Achieve60AZ establishes a new statewide goal that at least 60% of Arizonans achieve a college degree or certificate by 2030. Endorsed by Governor Doug Ducey in September at a joint press conference, Achieve60AZ is a grassroots initiative supported by a statewide coalition of more than 60 community, business, philanthropic, education, and other organizations. The goal of Achieve60AZ is to help generate greater public and private awareness, ownership, and support for the long-term steps needed in college entry and completion, adult education and training, and identifying and closing skills gaps to better prepare our workforce and our state for the future. So Tempe held 3 stakeholder meetings, March 1st, March 24th, and May 2nd, and we had a broad base of support from our local education partners, and you can see them listed. We had Arizona State University, city partners, Expect More Arizona, the Community College District, Tempe Elementary, and Tempe Union High School District. Currently, just 42% of Arizonans complete their education after high school, a rate lower than the national average. The urgency to address this problem is only expected to grow as more than 2/3 of future jobs are expected to require education beyond high school. A high school diploma alone can no longer be the finish line. There are great income disparities among adults with and without a college degree. This chart details the median annual earnings among full-time workers ages 25 to 32. Earnings potential has a great impact on our poverty rates. It's worth noting that the highest proportion of residents with bachelor's degree or higher reside in 85284 and the area immediately surrounding ASU. So currently, approximately 57% of Tempe residents have a degree or certificate compared to 42% of Arizonans. Setting a Tempe-specific degree attainment goal supports City Council strategic priority number 3 for quality of life and provides a more specific performance measure for degree attainment in the education roadmap. There are 4 education performance measures under quality of life. These range from kindergarten readiness to post-secondary access. While the city is not solely responsible for achieving these benchmarks, city programs and services contribute to our youth's ability to be successful in reaching these academic goals. Erin Eccleston now of Expect More Arizona will take us through the Arizona Education Progress Meter.
Well, thank you to Marie, and thank you, Mayor and members of the council, for allowing us to share this information with you tonight. As a statewide nonpartisan education advocacy organization, Expect More Arizona has been in local communities all across the state for nearly 6 years, working to build support and really foster collaboration around a shared vision for education in Arizona. Last winter, we partnered with the Center for the Future of Arizona to create this very detailed and specific vision to define it and have a framework for how we can not only set goals and have a path for where we're going, but then also measure our progress along the way. And that's the Arizona Education Progress Meter. When we launched the Progress Meter in February of 2016, we did so with the support of over 40 organizations, including the Governor's Office of Education, the State Board of Education, Arizona Department of Education, many business and education leaders all over Arizona. The idea behind the Progress Meter was to, again, create this framework for where we can go in education and then have a tool for local communities to and our state to measure our progress along the way So as such, we have actually partnered to create local level data that could be available upon request for all of these indicators, so that we can see the baselines of where cities and towns and local governments who are interested in this initiative, where they stand, and then they can also measure their progress over time as well. I would say that there is incredible alignment, as you can see, between the framework that you all have already adopted and have been working on as part of your strategic plan, and the indicators that Expect More Arizona and the Center for the Future of Arizona have identified as the path forward to a world-class education in our state. As we have been working to build support for this shared vision and track where we stand today, we're also looking forward to where we're headed. And that's where the state's attainment goal came in. As the first of the indicators to set a goal, the state, through the Achieve60AZ Alliance, had set a 60% by 2030 goal for all 25 to 64-year-olds to receive some form of post-high school education or job training. So a degree or industry credential. And of course, Marie shared why that's so critical. But one of the things that we've identified is how to get there is to implement these 4 strategies. First and foremost, improving the K-12 pipeline. We know that all of the indicators that we have created through our progress meter moving the needle on any one of those will help us reach our state's goal of 60% by 2030. Additionally, we know there's other strategies that we could implement as well, increasing access, aligning workforce needs so that more people are completing their degree or credential so that that is aligned to getting a career. We know that that obviously increases the number of people who complete. And then actually having people who have some education return back and completing their credentials. That's actually a pretty good number of people.
Councilman
Yes.
Kuby?
So I had a question. So I noticed the strategy is to increase pre-kindergarten enrollment. We've had a lot of talk here
Yes.
about pre-K and kindergarten. So why wouldn't the strategy be to increase readiness for kindergarten? I thought that would be the goal.
Kindergarten readiness is a clear indication of third grade reading proficiency. So when kids are coming into kindergarten ready to learn, the direct correlation to whether or not they're reading proficiently by the end of third grade is significant. So for Expect More Arizona, when we were looking at all the different indicators that we could identify, preschool enrollment is the one that is actually measurable and can be updated annually, whereas kindergarten readiness as an indicator is hard to do that. And very reliable, consistent, and updated data was really important for us in the progress meter. But
Councilman Schreiber?
Thank you, Mayor. To Councilmember Kuby's point, and we've had a lot of discussion on this in our work group, there's a lot of flux in what kindergarten readiness means, whether it's DIBELS or Teaching Strategies Goal or KDI. So in the next few years especially, it's going to be difficult to compare to the past. We'll be able to compare peer groups to each other, but in terms of comparing to the past, it would be pretty difficult in this near-term range as folks are moving away from DIBELS and towards other metrics. But I have a question on the slide, the Attainment and Tempe slide. I know it's a few back, but just before we get too far past, I just wanted to quickly ask this question. So on that slide, it says total degrees, 51.56%, but that's just including, if I read this right, the associate's, bachelor's, and graduate degrees, but not the certificates?
Correct.
Okay.
Which
and
they did mention that.
I know,
if
but
you combined
I
them.
understand. So I want to skip ahead real quick to the slide where we were, the attainment projection slide.
Oh.
I think it was our next slide, maybe.
Oh, yeah, I don't think we've gotten there yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll ask it when we get to that one, but just before we got too far past that other slide, I just want to be clear that 51.56 that we're talking about is just talking about degrees, not including certificates, whereas the goals that we're talking about do include certificates. So I'm just concerned about apples and oranges here because we're saying we want to go from 51.56 to 65, but those two numbers include different things. So maybe when we get to that attainment projection slide, I'll follow up. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. Continue.
So the City of Tempe and its educational partners are already implementing many best practice programs that align with the Achieve60AZ strategies. These programs and practices support one another and the overall educational attainment goal for Tempe, that every young adult thrives and becomes a contributing member of the community. As we were just discussing, improving the K-12 pipeline includes ensuring our youngest residents are prepared and ready for kindergarten. This collaborative initiative aligns with the roadmap and supports the city's goals that every child enters kindergarten ready to succeed. This also aligns with Performance Measure 6 under Quality of Life, which states that we achieve a kindergarten readiness rate of Tempe students meeting or exceeding the DIBELS Next kindergarten readiness benchmark. Preschool enrollment is also one of the measures within the Expect More Arizona Progress Meter. Tempe's Experience Corps program provides reading support for children in kindergarten through 3rd grade by pairing them with older adult volunteers. This long-standing program aligns with the roadmap and supports the city's goals that every child succeeds academically. It also aligns with Performance Measure 7 under Quality of Life to achieve a rate for Tempe students of highly proficient or proficient in 3rd grade reading greater than or equal to the AZ Merit English Language Arts Assessment. And finally, 3rd grade reading level attainment is one of the measures within the Expect More Arizona Progress Meter. We Want You Back is an initiative that came out of the Mayor's Education Roundtable. Mayor Mitchell led the effort with Tempe Union Superintendent Dr. Baca to walk door to door to re-engage Tempe Union students who had ceased attending school. It was held on January 7th of 2017, and we had 66 volunteers from across Tempe's educational partnership and visited 77 homes to encourage students to come back to high school and earn their diploma. After the event, 8 students returned immediately, with additional students expressing interest in returning this upcoming fall. Another event is scheduled for Saturday, August 5th. This coordinated activity aligns with the roadmap and supports the city's goals that every child succeed academically, that every child is supported in and out of school, and it also supports the high school graduation benchmark. It also supports Performance Measure 8 under Quality of Life, which is to achieve a high school graduation rate of Tempe students who graduate in 4 years greater than or equal to the state average. Also, Connecting Opportunity Youth and high school graduation are both measures within the Expect More Arizona Progress Meter. College Connect is a community collaboration that aligns with the roadmap and supports the city's goals for college enrollment, for young adults being prepared to achieve their life and career goals, and that every young adult thrives and becomes a contributing member of the community. Council Performance Measure 9 under Quality of Life is achieve a rate of Tempe high school graduates who go to post-secondary school greater than or equal to the state average. Post-high school enrollment is also a measure within the Expect More Arizona Progress Meter. Some other impactful initiatives that the city is involved with are youth workforce and engagement. We've been convening youth workforce development partners to discuss ways to support youth in integrating education and workforce opportunities. The partners are excited to work together on strategies to support this degree attainment goal initiative and working to achieve local impact. Efforts are also underway to establish youth-friendly employer guidelines to assist youth in becoming successful employees and to assist employers in developing processes that are supportive of youth development. Neighborhood wellness also plays a role in the degree attainment goal. This initiative originated from the National League of Cities, and it will assist the city in evaluating our neighborhoods through looking at multiple indicators that impact a community's overall well-being, such as poverty, access to health care, quality schools, availability of preschool, and income levels. So since Tempe's current attainment rate is already at 57%, and that 57%, Councilmember Shapira, includes the certificates, the Tempe stakeholder group consensus was to pursue a 65% attainment goal. Along with setting this goal, we would also ask to formally align the city's strategic priorities and education performance measures with the Expect More Arizona Progress Meter to set benchmark goals. We can then partner with Expect More Arizona to elevate progress on the indicators both locally and statewide. As we've seen in this presentation, degree attainment plays a large role in earnings potential, with a difference of $17,500 in earnings between those who have a degree and those who do not. By 2020, an estimated 68% of all jobs in Arizona will require post-secondary education, and 55,000 jobs open up every year requiring training beyond high school. So this chart details the number of degrees and certificates we would need to add to achieve the 65% attainment goal by the year 2030. While these numbers do not take into account potential population growth, it underscores the benefit of setting a percent goal rather than a firm number, since the number can adjust accordingly as the population changes. Yeah.
So on this slide, just to make sure we're looking at this and we're looking back at it later on, just to make sure we're comparing apples to apples, if we could adjust that one line to include the certification, since I think we are looking to include certifications in the last two lines,
Yes,
right?
correct.
Just for the apples to apples purposes. And then in terms of figuring that out, what will we count as a certificate and what won't we, and how will that be determined?
That process is actually unfolding at the state level as well through the Achieve60AZ Alliance as we speak. One of the things that was initially developed was a set of like key programs and certifications that lead to jobs that are in, kind of high demand and industries in high demand in Arizona. So quote unquote high quality certifications and credentials. So we actually have a list of some of those, which we could provide as like a backup of some of those that were identified. And then I think there's another effort to look at the statewide list that was developed and make sure that it's consistent.
Is this the list that was created by ADE?
No, actually, the list was created by the Morrison Institute,
Okay.
was helping to kind of create a lot of and house a lot of this data, and then ABOR. So it was like a combination of the Morrison Institute and ABOR working together to create the baseline for what the state's level of certifications are.
I would just say I've done a lot of work in this particular area in the last 2 or 3 years. I was on a stakeholder group with ADE that determined which certifications were going to count to meet the statutory requirement for certifications under 15391.
Yes.
And let me just say, the list that ADE has, don't use that.
Yeah, we
I was in the
yeah,
stakeholder
yeah,
group for that list, and it
yeah.
was, we created a great list, and then they went back and changed it, and it's really, really poor at this point. To me, I think what I would like to see, if we're going to set a goal for this, is to say an industry credential that is A, portable, so it's not just for one business, right? And B, that qualifies you for a job you could not otherwise qualify for. And I think if a credential meets those two definitions, then I think we should count it. If it doesn't, then I don't think we should count it.
Yeah.
So that's just my feedback on, how we're going to figure out which ones count. I think you really have to meet those two criteria in order to count it. Otherwise, what's the point? What's the point of the credential if it's not portable? And what's the point of the credential if it doesn't qualify you for jobs that you wouldn't otherwise be qualified?
And those two factors were included in the basis for a lot of the determination of what the state level is. The 5% came from a study that was done by the Lumina Foundation, and some of those same criteria were included in that. But there was some discrepancy on what we believed really existed in Arizona and what the national framework that they then applied to Arizona and what that was. So there's some debate happening right now. I wouldn't say debate, but there's some discussion happening right now in figuring out what exactly that number is. But we feel like it's pretty close to 5%.
And I think it would just be good at the outset to know what we're counting and what we're
Yes.
not, because you can't have a baseline unless you know what you're counting. And so, for example, we already have that extra 5% in there, which is taking us to 57. What's included in that 5% and what isn't
Right.
would be good information for us to have. Thank you.
Great. So first, I just need to applaud the city of Tempe. I mean, all of the great work that you all are doing. I'm dead serious. I mean, this is, I say constantly all across the state and discuss with other leaders the work that you all are doing, because I think it is some of the examples of best practices that we would want to share about what cities and towns are doing to really move the needle on education in their local communities. So I think it's amazing what you all are already doing. And I just wanted to say that as part of Expect More Arizona's work, and in our partnership with the Center for the Future of Arizona, we are out there asking other cities and towns and local governments to also adopt this attainment goal. And to align with the progress meter. And as you can see, many have. But the city of Tempe is going to be the first that I think has actually done a lot of digging on their own data, has developed very clear indicators for their own community, and will be the first, if the council does decide to adopt the 65% attainment goal, we'll be the first community in the state of Arizona to actually go above the state's attainment goal. So all of those things I think are remarkable, and all of the work that you all are doing is already leading up to making progress toward that goal. So thank you.
I can't thank you enough because I've been done a lot with Expect More Arizona, with, Dr. Kaur and some other individuals. I was at the Flynn Foundation this afternoon regarding the biosciences steering map, and I was part of that committee, and we were talking about the AZ60, and we're having it on our agenda tonight. And one of the big two main questions I get from potential individuals or companies looking to come to our community is, the first question they always ask is, how's your K through 12 system? That's the first question, because they want to make sure that we provide the quality of life amenities as a city. And I'm not surprised to see other cities that are on, that you've had, and I'm not going to be surprised that more cities will not join and add on to be a part of Achieve60AZ, because we all know what that looks like, especially here in Tempe. We take education very seriously in this community. We're home to the #1 university in the country. I'm a little biased because I am an alumni from ASU, but I would tell you the strides that we've taken as a council and the programs we implemented really go hand in hand with this. And I have no problem doing, and if the council agrees with this, the 65%, because I know we're going to get there and beyond, hopefully. And that just really shows the quality of life that we look at in our community for our residents. And it's easily noted. It's all the programs you see before us, read on, experience course, all those stuff in the We Want You Back program. All the mayor, I belong to Mayor's Education Roundtable, and we're all talking about these very issues. What can we do? Because we know in the long run what that's going to mean to our not only our cities but our region and our state.
Yeah.
So thank you for what you guys do, Councilman Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. I absolutely agree with you that I think it's a definitely worthy goal we should set ourselves to. Thank you so much for coming and presenting to us and making sure that Tempe is on board with this. One thing I would like to say is, so you had people go door to door and try to convince dropouts to go back to school?
We did it.
We did. The three of us did. I want to do that next time. Like, I seriously want to do that. How do I set that up? Can we get my assistant to get in touch with you, or
Just,
can I have your card?
we'll get you. We asked everyone to do it, and anyone can, and we're going to do it, as Marie mentioned, we're going to do it again. I mean,
Yeah.
I got to give
August
credit.
5th.
It's going to be August 5th, and we did
Got
this in January as Councilman Shapiro and Vice Mayor Arredondo Savage and I. It was great. Their turnout was overwhelming. To actually go knocking on the doors and speaking to these individuals, and I had one individual say to me, "I'm like, I can't believe you guys care."
Yeah.
You often hear me say Tempe is a community that cares. We care about a lot of things, and we are a caring community, and it showed. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it, but I'm being honest with you. This is something that touched me dramatically. Just talking to these individuals, you guys actually care? You want me to go back to school? I'm like, well, yeah, we care. You're part of our city. And I know that was just me. I had 5 houses, and then I don't know, David had 5, and I don't know how many Robin had, but I'm telling you, it's a great experience. I would encourage all of us.
Excited. I want to do it. Sounds amazing.
You're it.
Councilman Granville.
Yeah, I think this is a good goal. I mean, what was the elected official who says, what I don't want is an educated population? Yeah.
And that, did you?
Yeah, no, that would be crazy, right? So no, I think it's great. The thing that I think surprised me as I dug into these numbers is, so the number of college degrees was 42%, I want to say, 43%.
Overall for Arizona.
Overall for Tempe, I think it was 43% as well for just college degrees. If you look at college and graduate
It
degrees.
was 52.
51.56.
Right.
51.
That
So
includes
50%.
certificate program. It includes
That does
associate
not.
degrees.
Right.
Yes.
and
So
So if you just add the
associates.
25 and the 18.
Right.
Yeah, so one of the things that I found, I think, interesting is I just quickly pulled, because I was trying to figure out how you raise those numbers enough to get us to 65, because that was your main thing. And I thought, well, probably people that are older in Tempe probably don't have as many college degrees. So I looked at the census data. Turns out that's not true. People 60 years old have the exact same percentage of college degrees. And I thought, well, maybe 30-year-olds have the exact same percentage. It's roughly 42, 43% once you get to about 25 and beyond. And so I thought, okay, so how do you move those numbers with just, it's not like the sort of uneducated or aging out of our system. You're trying to move a whole number by adjusting only 1/5 of the numbers, right? Because the 25 to 35-year-olds aren't going to they're not going to be recent high school graduates going to college. And I applaud you. So I pulled the numbers, and so I think there's work to be done for sure, right? Especially at the earlier levels. Tempe High, if you look at the number, all of our schools, with the exception of Corona, graduate about 85, 88%. And then of that 85 or 88%, then they check to see how many finished college within, I think, 6 years or 5 years. Tempe High was only 17%. So 17% of 88%. Marcos was 22. McClintock, our alma mater, was 29%. Corona was 48%. I think when I look at your slide about where we go from here, I think that's a great place to go to start talking about the earlier levels. So you're not saying in a senior year, hey, let me talk to you about college. And they're like, let me tell you, that's the least of my concerns right now, right? And I just think whatever I can do to help, obviously whatever Randy can do to help, he's on board. He's 100% on board, yeah, because it's, that 48, that number, the 50, 25, and 18, that didn't come from our schools only, right? That would have had to have come from people moving into Tempe with college degrees. Otherwise, you couldn't get the number that high. The number would be like 20%, 24%. I think this is a great goal. I think we've got work ahead of you.
Navarro?
No, with everything said and the work you guys do, I just want to express, obviously as a council for, many years we supported education, but the work that this office is doing, the partnership with the schools, the coordination with the state, and with all this stuff, that's exactly what the goal was when we developed this. And it's just outstanding to see the progress of what we're doing as a city, to your point, how we're achieving things that other cities are not even looking at or engaging in yet. I think we had, the vision to see the opportunity with this. I remember the discussion with Andrew. It's like, no, there's going to be more need. There's going to be more people out of this office. It's going to be huge. And I just want to say thank you for your all's hard work and effort you do. Marie, you've done a great job. And this has been just fabulous how you've been putting together the staff and everything like that. So thank you so much.
Councilman Shapiro.
Thank you, Mayor. I really appreciate the partnership with Expect More. You're an incredible organization, a long-time friend of mine. Pearl has, been your leader for quite some time, and I hear is doing something else. Yes. And obviously the Center for Future of Arizona under Laddie Corr's leadership, and Sybil Francis is an amazing group as well. So I just really want to say we appreciate your leadership on this statewide and your working with us. There's two things I'd like to flag for you that I think would be good to for all of us to be considering as we implement this and as we try to make it happen. And I would hope that you would flag these things for the governor and the legislature as you do some state level advocacy on these issues going forward. One is that we talk about this disaffected youth range or opportunity youth. There's different terminologies that are used, and the state has had some programs in the past that were really beneficial for that group. For example, two years ago, ranging back to 5 or 6 years ago, so for like 3 or 4 years, we had this program called the Young Graduates Program, which allowed recent college graduates, or I'm sorry, recent high school graduates, up to the age of 22, to be able to go to any JTED in Arizona and get skills training still for free until their 22nd birthday, to be able to get those certifications and licensures that count towards this goal. Very quietly, the governor and the legislature eliminated that funding last year. You might remember they threatened to cut JTEDs by $30 million, and then they only cut us by $2 million, and Governor Ducey's announcement was, well, he invested $28 million in JTEDs, right? Because he only cut us by 2 instead of 30. Well, the $2 million he cut was for that, was for the young graduates. And so I think that is such a small expenditure that has such a big set of outcomes for that age range of students and for us to be able to meet this goal. So I know there's some movements afoot at the legislature to consider restoring that $2 million. I think that would go a long way towards helping us achieve this. So I just want to flag that one thing. And then the other thing is, anytime this conversation comes up about dropouts, I get a lot of the same questions as, why does Arizona have a compulsory attendance age of only 16? And I'm looking at a chart right now of other states around the country. Many states have it at 17. Appears that at least half the states have it over 16, either 17 or 18. if high school goes until 18, why do we allow students to drop out at 16? Why don't we have it compulsory till 18? I ran that bill when I was in the legislature. I don't think I got a hearing, or actually no, I did get a hearing, and I think they killed it in committee. That's something else that I think would go a long way as well, because I can tell you a lot of the young people that I talk to, and I know the mayor and Robin had a chance to talk to as well, you know, I think if they didn't have that option, you know, when you're 16 years old, I think most 16-year-olds, including myself when I was 16, the last place you want to be is school, right? But I disagree with Representative Mosley, who this year said that he doesn't think anyone who doesn't want to go to school should have to. That, you know, kid, if you're 8 years old and you don't want to go to third grade anymore, you know, you just shouldn't have to go. That's just insane to me. I think we need to ensure that every kid in our society has an opportunity to succeed. And I don't think a 16-year-old is old enough to make that decision to say that I'm not going to attend high school anymore. So I think compulsory attendance is something else that we should look at, and that a lot of other states are ahead of us on. And so I just wanted to flag that issue as well. But last, I just wanted to thank you, and thank you, Marie, as well, for working with our outside partners to hopefully make this a reality by 2030.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Aaron Savage.
Yeah, just a couple of things really quick. Erin, it's very good to see you again. It's been a while. I haven't seen you for a little bit. And just a big thank you to Marie. And I know that you've been carrying a lot of things on your plate lately. And to be able to balance it all and bring it to this point is really phenomenal. So thank you for that. I mean, it was about a year ago, I think, we actually sat down with Dr. Rund over at ASU, who brought this to our attention and said, hey, we think Tempe can be the leader in achieving 60AZ, and Marie and I said, yes, we can. I think this is just definitely, to me, kind of like the icing on the cake and being able to bring everything together. So I appreciate the work. I am 100%. I think it's really phenomenal. I think we do a lot of really wonderful things. I think the one thing that I would say, though, too, is, and Joel hit it a little bit, but I'm going to hit it a little bit more, is I think if education and achieving 65% for the city of Tempe is important to us, then we need to make sure that we allocate the resources to be able to do that. Because we are constantly, one of the things that Joel and I have been working really hard on, and Marie's been a great part of it, and some of our other staff members, is our youth workforce and some of the challenges that we're having and getting those kids the experience to really learn different types of careers and get excited about what they could possibly do in years after high school. So what we're learning, though, is we've got the private sector, the public sector really wanting to come together to do that, but it's really going to take some time, some energy, some staff time, and some resources to be able to make that stuff work, and we know that. So, I mean, I hope as we move forward, I don't want to leave you hanging high and dry without having the tools and the resources to be able to do exactly what it is we need to do to be able to make this goal achievable. And we just had our College Connect meeting yesterday, and we're talking about the expansion and inclusion of careers and what that really looks like, and doing even more work, just like Colby mentioned, is when they're a senior, it's really tough, because what happens is the majority of those seniors like, I don't know what I really want to do, and then so they don't do anything, and then they end up going to community college and register about 4 days before school starts, and unfortunately don't get a really great schedule, and it doesn't really work out, and so that success rate is pretty minimal. So I think there's so many things that we can do, and the volunteers that we have on board going into the middle schools to really work with them at a younger age is a good direction. I think everybody's bought into that. We're really excited about that too. So I would just ask the council to throw it to Andrew and say, just make sure that we aren't setting them up for something that we don't have the resources to be able to support, because I know it's really important. I'm always advocating and looking for funds and grants and opportunities out in the public, but I think at some point we kind of need to step up to and make sure that we have the right resources to be able to make it work. So again, a great shout out to you guys and your work. ASU, thank you so much. Always great to see you, C-Dub.
One of the things.
So anyway, thank you very much.
He's already committed.
Oh,
long as it goes.
no pressure.
I did not
No
even see him.
pressure.
And one of the things I think is important is as we continue, I think we're going to, obviously the council's consensus, move forward with the 65% and to line out strategic priorities, but also partner with Expect More Arizona and with Aaron. But I would encourage you to get more involved with the League of Cities and Towns. I know you've spoken in the past, sir, and you've had breakouts. There's a conference coming up. That's a great opportunity, because all 91 cities and towns will be at this conference. It's going to be in Tucson. Yes. There's a great opportunity to really have information on what's happening, and for other cities to share what we're doing, so that's good.
Hey, Mayor, I just want to say one thing, and people probably don't know this, and Aaron mentioned it. I mean, we like to think of ourselves as a leader, but it's really great when another city reaches out to us and says, hey, can you come and share what you guys have been able to do? And we had one of our sister cities ask Marie and I to come and talk to them a little bit about how to build their education partnerships and really make that a priority for their city. So, I mean, hats off to you, Marie, and all the work and everything that you've been able to do and your team. So thank you for that. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again. All right. Next item on our agenda is our code of conduct. Mr. Shields.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Shields, before you start, I assume this is like the last one where I am conflicted out?
You know, there's no statute or rule that says that you are, Mr. Granville. It's really kind of whatever you believe to be appropriate. I think you can participate in the discussion.
But I was specifically told last time I was conflicted.
Well, I don't believe that as far as input into the outcome, it would be appropriate. If you would have something to add factually, I don't think that that is inappropriate.
Okay.
So that's my advice on that issue.
All right, then I guess I will do like I did last time, unless you guys want me to stay. It's at your pleasure.
Rather you staying.
Okay. That's the desire of the council. It's really up to you guys.
No, it's not. It's up to you.
It's up to you. I'm not.
It's not up to you.
It's your decision.
That's your decision.
Then I think if I can't participate in the discussion, then I think there's no reason for me to be here. I appreciate it.
All right, Mr. Shields.
All right, thanks for the opportunity. I do want to add to something in my report, and it is this. In looking at my interview summaries, I asked Mr. Granville whether he knew that the person who took the photograph was Mr. Martinez, and he told me no. I then asked him why he used the term psycho-stalker in reference to the person who took the photograph, and he responded that he didn't intend to single out Mr. Martinez. That's not in my report. I want to make it clear that that's what he told me. The issue that creates is...
That's not in your report?
It's not in my report that Mr. Granville denied that he intended to identify Mr. Martinez as a psycho-stalker. What is in my report is that Mr. Martinez was contacted on the same day as the posting, April 7th, by his friends and said, Colby Granville just called you a psycho-stalker. What is also in my report is that when I asked Mr. Granville for the second or third time why that language, his response was that he intended to identify the photographer by description like I would do if it was a tall blonde that took my photograph. So the issue that creates is whether either A, Mr. Granville intended those comments to be directed towards Mr. Martinez, or B, he intended those comments to be directed towards a random citizen who took his photograph. Regardless, it does not change the conclusion that the comments were not consistent with the personnel rules cited in my report, nor the portion of the ethics handbook, because they did not treat the individual who took the photograph with dignity and respect.
I have a quick question.
Yes, Councilman Cutie.
So wasn't the photograph that Councilmember Granville obtained, didn't he obtain it from Facebook on Mr. Martinez's site?
A friend of...
Say that again?
Didn't he obtain the photograph from so he knew it was Mario's
Indirectly,
photograph.
a friend of his, a friend of Mr. Granville's, saw it on Mr. Martinez's site and then sent it to Mr. Granville.
So, so
But
I'm
he
just
knew who he was.
That's just
and
weird.
just for clarity,
Councilman Navarro.
the comment about he did not know, was it before he, obviously he knew. It sounds like he knew because of the Facebook thing.
You know, he didn't admit that he knew.
Okay, got it.
I wanted, just to clarify that, to be completely transparent and fair, frankly, to both. So he didn't get the photograph himself directly from Mr. Martinez's site. A friend sent it to him. He said he posted it because he, quote, just liked the photo. And then I asked, I believe 3 times, why that language? Why that language? And the final answer was, I was describing the person who took the photograph just like I would if it was a, quote, tall blonde. So that's up for you to sort of sort of analyze. I think that's the only thing I wanted to bring to your attention that's not in my report, so I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about it.
All right, Vice Mayor O'Donnell Savage.
And I just want to clarify, Jennifer, thank you for the information, is that wouldn't really, that does not change. I mean, obviously, that's a little bit more part of your investigation, but technically, that would not change your finding analysis or the options moving forward.
It would
That's
not.
still, okay.
One other thing that I just recalled, and this is, Mr. Martinez said that he took the posting down of his own volition, as is in my report, and as he told me, he took the posting down when he was contacted by a friend. I don't know if it was the same friend who forwarded him the photograph, but that alerted him that that particular posting could well be deemed offensive.
Okay. All right, so we find ourselves in a situation. I think it's similar to the last one. Any thoughts or any comments from the council on, I mean, the options, as Mr. Shields mentioned, we're looking at the Arizona Medical Board describes, we looked at an advisory letter, a letter of reprimand, or a full censure. As some of the, I don't, last time we did a letter of reprimand with a public apology.
Correct.
Is that the same that we're looking at now? Vice Mayor O'Donnell Savage.
No, I mean, I thank you. I mean, I put everything together. I went back and I looked at some of the old stuff in regards to, our code of conduct, our personal rules and regulations, and the ethics of, what our expectations are of the workplace, and just put the principles before me. And Mr. I think you laid them out really nice, so thank you for doing that. I appreciate that too. So I just really took it all into consideration about the complaints, the investigation, the findings, and definitely the options moving forward. And then I did take into account the previous incidents and the precedent, I think, that we set with that, with the option that we selected and moving forward with that. So based on, and I just want to make sure I'm clear on this, on the violations that you cited, we're very similar in both instances. And the only one difference was in this one, the violation was of section 406B 3 and 9, which incorporated the off-duty, the discredit to the city of Tempe, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you're correct.
Okay, and violated 1, 2, 5th, and 6th provisions of the ethics handbook.
That is correct. It's all based on the dignity and respect language throughout those
Right.
rules and policies.
Right, and then I guess I'm putting all those facts together and keeping everything in front of me. I feel like that we need to be consistent, and I would move forward with the letter of reprimand as we did in the last instance, and hope that, it's all about behavior and treating people with respect and dignity, whether it's us here at this table or people in the public or our staff. Very important to make sure that we hold ourselves to the very highest standards.
Councilman Kiwi?
I'm struggling with this a bit because, it is clear there was a violation, and you make a really good case for that. But I look at, maybe I shouldn't be comparing it to the previous case, but it does seem in this case he showed regret. Within 2 hours, he removed it. He had to be told that it was offensive, but he showed regret. And I'm sort of torn between the advisory letter and the letter of reprimand, and not sure where the rest of the council is headed. But the previous incident, he did not show regret, and actually went on social media and kind of defended it in some ways.
I think he learned his lesson.
But so he obviously didn't learn his lesson.
No, he didn't.
Yet he showed some regret, and so I'm struggling. Does anybody have a sense of the same?
Councilmember Keating, then Councilman Navarro.
Thank you, Mayor. I just really want to really quickly say that, for the sake of consistency and how we handled the last incident, I do think that a letter of reprimand would be appropriate here. Otherwise we kind of get into, I don't want to ever be in a position where I would try to judge one act versus another, you know what I mean? And so to me, we got to be consistent with how we're going to move forward with these sorts of incidents, and letter of reprimand is the way to go.
Councilman Navarro?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And just for clarity, this was approximately the next day after our initial letter of reprimand? Was this?
Let me look. I actually printed that out. I printed out the draft.
April 7th was the day of the Instagram and Facebook.
Was that
So
2?
we had a council meeting the night before. I'm
I'll
just
look right now.
I think it was the very next day or the following day.
And and I agree. What's that? No, and I agree. I think being consistent, and like Councilmember Keaton said, I think a letter of recommend would be appropriate. Just one other thing to add, I know that obviously the time and money we spend on this is
Crazy.
it's crazy. I wish we were not doing this stuff. I learned things, especially from, and we have, different opinions about trips and stuff, but NLC has value, especially when they talk about conduct and how to approach your constituents and how to best use your political statute to move agendas and just be able to communicate. Those are the values. In fact, I think those trips pay for probably what it cost bringing you and the time spent. I think those are opportunities that should be used and that are well missed. I wish we all could learn from this and value when there's those opportunities, to utilize those opportunities to hopefully learn from and conduct us in a better way. So I do appreciate, I know what you have to go against. I know we hire you and we all understand that we have to do it for reasons just to get things through. But it's unfortunate that we have to be at this position.
To Councilman McCubey's point, did he take down the post, or did he take off the words and kept the post up?
It's the latter, Mayor. He took down the words, but he kept the
Kept
photograph.
the post up. Okay, so he didn't. So he still kept the. Okay.
The photograph was taken
Right.
at this meeting.
No, I know, but the post was there. All he did was take out. He removed the words.
Correct.
He likes the photo. And the photo's very good.
It is a very good photo.
Credit.
It is a very
It
good.
is a very good photo.
Councilman Shapiro.
I didn't raise my hand. I mean, I'll just say I agree with Councilmember Navarro. I'm sick of dealing with this stuff, and
Yeah.
I wish we could move on to the city's important business.
All right. So is there a consensus to move forward with the letter of reprimand and an apology, similar to what we did last time?
Yep.
A public
that sounds
apology.
The thing I think that we should have staff, no offense to you, Mr. Shields, but to save money for the city, I would rather have staff draft the document, draft the letter, if that's the case, if that's the will of the council.
Is there a conflict?
Yeah, I would just ask if
That's a
they're,
suggestion.
what the advice, yeah, I don't,
Yeah.
I think we can definitely look into that, but I guess I would ask Andrew and Mr. Shields if that would advise that moving forward, or should we stay consistent? Or-
I could concur with Ms. Baumann on that.
Okay.
But, why don't I just agree to do this? If the city attorney's office directs me to do it, I'll do it pro bono. And turn off the faucet.
Thank you.
Um,
And thank you for your help on this.
Yeah, thank you,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Shields. You did a really great job. We really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item is future agenda items. Anybody have any future agenda items? See none. Is it okay? We're going to go ahead right into the work study committee of the whole. That's okay?
I'm going to let Councilmember Raymond come back
Do
in.
that?
That's what Mr. Jones is doing right there.
All right, the next item on our agenda is the call to the audience for the committee of the whole items. Audience members have up to 3 minutes to address the city council. If you would like to speak on an item, could you please fill out a speaker card, which can be found in the back of the room, and give it to the city clerk. I'll call your name when it's your turn to speak. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the council under the items on the committee of the whole? Could you get my attention? I have a card here. I have Cole Libera, excuse me.
Close, it's okay. Forgive you. Good evening, Council. For the record, my name is Cole Libera. My address is 1609 West Vernon Avenue, Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
I'm used to
I won't
being
mess
at-
it up.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I forgive you. Before we start, I just want to say that this is kind of a surreal experience for me because I was born in Tempe, and I went to Mariposa, and I went to Pueblo, and I went to Corona, and then I went to ASU, and it was amazing. I had a great experience growing up in Tempe, in Warner Ranch. I had a fantastic high school experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world, and I'm so happy my parents chose to stay in Tempe. And now my dad works at the Honeywell facility right on Warner and Priest. My mom's at Kyrene Del Morada as a speech therapist. So I just want to say, for the record, you guys are doing something right, at least for the past 20 years that I've been in Tempe, 25 now, actually.
Move back.
Those first few were shaky, but now.
Right? No, because I lived, we moved around a little bit, but always in Tempe. So I just want to say thank you guys. It's been great, and my parents still live here. I love coming back and seeing everyone, and a lot of great relationships. So thank you. Now on to my formal business. I'm here on behalf of the Tempe Chamber of Commerce about pre-K, and we know how the council feels and how everything turned out, and we are totally supportive. Going forward, we want to work with you guys. This is something that's clearly important to the council and to the city of Tempe, and education, of course, is so integral to the chamber, because who doesn't want an educated workforce? We all want an educated workforce. I would love if there were a bunch of people, a bunch of me's running around specifically,
Oh, please.
Okay, all right, maybe not that many, but I think Tempe has real potential, and we would love to be engaged with you guys. And my phone is always on, my door is always open. So I just want to extend that hand out, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys and establishing a new relationship. And I'm excited for the future.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, guys.
Those are all the cards I have. Is anyone else in the audience wishing to address us on any of the items under the committee of the whole? Could you please get my attention? Seeing none, I'll close that portion. I'm going to move on to the Tempe pre-K regarding a status and update. Naomi and Marie.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I am Naomi Farrell, Human Services Director. With me today is Marie Raymond, Education, Families, and Youth Development Manager. In response to the results of the feasibility study and at the direction of Council at the March 16, 2017 work study session, staff developed an implementation plan that details the steps needed to open 15 of the anticipated 20 classrooms by August 2017. The remaining 5 classrooms are intended to open between January and August 2018.
So you all received the Tempe pre-implementation plan in your packets, and it details out our plan for April through August of this year. And so the updates on it include updates on our intergovernmental agreements with our school districts. So those IGAs have been developed with both the Tempe Elementary and Kyrene school districts. Both IGAs will be presented to Council with a request for approval at tomorrow, June 15, 2017 City Council meeting. In regards to community outreach, communication pieces and opportunities have been created or are currently in development. Some of these include parent information flyers, the online application, a mailer to GIS targeted addresses, advertisements in English and Spanish media, and a homepage ad on tempe.gov. Staff have also been present at in-person outreach events at the library and in the community. And in addition, a community informational meeting has been scheduled for July 13th at the Tempe History Museum. In regards to the evaluation component, several meetings have occurred between the City of Tempe staff and multiple schools and colleges at ASU to discuss evaluation options. Representatives from the Teachers College, the School of Social and Family Dynamics, the Child Study Lab, and the School of Public Policy are interested in working with the city to provide education interns for the classrooms and assistance in developing an evaluation plan. Staff continue to meet with local funders to determine the possibility of accessing funding for the evaluation component. Our random selection process, which we may have formally referred to as a lottery, the City of Tempe IT staff explored various systems currently utilized by other municipalities who have implemented a similar preschool model. A scaled-down version of a random selection system using Excel will need to be developed initially, and then a full model would be developed for future implementation. In regards to the classrooms and teaching staff, 15 classrooms have been identified as Tempe pre-sites. 13 teachers have been hired and have been issued contracts by the school districts, with 2 teachers remaining to be hired. 5 sites have 2 Tempe pre-classrooms. Those sites are Arredondo, Scales, Thu, Wood, and Kidzone at Getz. And 5 sites have 1 Tempe pre-classroom, and those are Aguilar, Holdeman, Laird, Kyrene de los Niños, and Kyrene de la Mariposa. And finally, on the implementation plan, we have our Tempe pre-staff. So position descriptions have been developed for the Tempe pre-supervisor, Tempe pre-coordinator, and Tempe pre-data analyst positions. These positions will be posted after approval by council at the June 15th regular council meeting. Staff are anticipated to be in place upon the start of the program in August. The other document you have in your packets is an estimated budget for the program. So the estimated budget was created in collaboration with Tempe Pre-Partners and details the expected cost for the operational costs of classrooms, startup costs, assessment, evaluation, and professional development, Tempe Pre-Staff, and communications and IT. So fiscal year 2018 estimated cost total $3,070,679, and fiscal year 2019 estimated cost total $2,882,326. And then the final document that you had in your packet was in regards to the Tempe Pre-Program Guidelines. Staff developed Tempe Pre-Program Guidelines to use as a resource during our initial phases of implementation. These guidelines include student eligibility criteria, student selection process, enrollment requirements, required applicant enrollment materials, and continuation of eligibility and enrollment. A committee will be developed to review these program guidelines and to determine further policies and procedures. And so we'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Councilman Schreier.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to just say that Naomi and Marie and Ann Lynn and the entire department, in conjunction with, I know, Shelley's department as well, are doing incredible work on this. They have made such great progress that, you know, we're rolling right ahead right now. And I believe, did you mention just now, did you mention anywhere in there how many applicants we have at this point?
As of today, we have 225.
Yeah, which is pretty amazing, I think, after 9 days of having the application live, to have that many applicants. It just shows how much interest and need there is in the city. You know, if we continue at the pace we're on right now, by next week we'll have over 360 applicants, which is the most we'll be able to accommodate in the year. So I'm really appreciative of all the hard work that they've done, as I know are the other members of the work group in the council. In addition, Marie mentioned that we've been talking to other funders, and Marie and I have met with some folks that might want to get involved, and we're very hopeful. I think they're excited to see that a city finally has some skin in the game. There's lots of cities that have been talking about preschool initiatives in recent years, but to actually have a city that's dedicated to it and has committed the funding, it has been very helpful in those conversations when we're looking for some outside resources to help us with the research and professional development and assessment components of this. And so I'm optimistic that we'll be able to get some outside help for those pieces of it. Also, you know, Marie mentioned talking with ASU and working with departments there on the research component. Councilmember Cubey and I think everyone's meeting with Matt Salmon and Angie to sort of get updates on what's going on with ASU and to get a sense of what Matt's role is, Congressman Salmon's role is going to be there. And we had a great conversation with them this morning, and we were able to touch on a couple things that are going on, and hopefully we'll be able to get ASU more and more involved. And then also, I am meeting next week with Cole to actually talk about ways that we can get the chamber more involved in the process going forward. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation. The last thing I wanted to put out there, and I just wanted to float this idea and see what people's thoughts were. As Marie mentioned, we have 15 of our sites identified. We're still looking at 5 sites, and we really want to kind of, you know, disperse these as much within 85281 and 85283 as possible, given that's where the need is. You might remember in those charts that we got from Marie and her team early on in the process, they showed, I think there was only one high quality rated preschool within those 2 zip codes. I think there was one that was in 283 and none that were in 281. And so we certainly have a huge need in those 2 zip codes especially. And we are, as you know, we're working with Tempe Elementary School District as well as Kyrene. One thing that we have not done is we have not worked with the other school districts that cross into our boundaries. And really that hadn't come up until I happened to be having a meeting last week with Dr. Mike Cowan in Mesa Public Schools. And of course it hit me that, and as I know you all know, the Tempe residents that live east of the 101 are in Mesa Public School District. And so I mentioned to Dr. Cowan that we were working on this initiative and that it may have some long-term benefits for the students that live in those neighborhoods and end up matriculating to Mesa Public School sites. And I hatched this idea, which I've just barely talked about with Marie, and I'm hopeful to talk about with some folks in Mesa, of the possibility of maybe locating one of our sites east of the 101. And so I wanted to float this idea to you. Ideally, we would find a site that's within, obviously, the Tempe city limits, so west of the canal, but east of the freeway, that would serve some of those neighborhoods. And many of those neighborhoods are low, but also some middle-income neighborhoods. But the other possibility that I was thinking of is, I think you all have heard that Mayor Giles has talked a lot in recent years about early childhood in Mesa, and in fact formed a stakeholder group, and just didn't quite have the political will on his council to get the ball moving. But I know it has a lot of interest in expanding early childhood opportunities in Mesa. And Dr. Cowan mentioned that there is an early childhood center that's part of Mesa Public Schools that serves 0 to 5, that's right there on the border of Tempe and Mesa. And so I'm interested to see if the council has an interest in pitching an idea maybe to the city of Mesa where we could locate 2 classrooms or more at that early childhood site, which is part of Mesa Public Schools, that's right there on the border, happens to be on the Mesa side of the border. But that would serve the Tempe students. One of the classrooms would serve the Tempe students from within that range that are east of the freeway but west of the canal. And the other classroom could be a pilot classroom for Mesa. And if Mesa is willing to put up the $140,000 or so that we're dedicating to each classroom, if they're willing to put it towards their classroom at that site, then we could split the cost there, co-locate at that site, which would be geographically convenient for West Masons and East Tempeans. And part of the agreement would be that we would share our data with Mesa so that they could use that going forward in determining whether or not it's something they wanted to launch in their city. So before I went any further with this idea, I wanted to bring it to the council to see what people thought. Again, we're looking for 5 more sites, and we may have a possibility there that can serve some neighborhoods that are Tempe neighborhoods that are underserved.
I think that's an intriguing idea. The only question I would have is, as long as those residents or the students are Tempe residents,
right.
Because I wouldn't want to take away from a classroom that we could have put in A5281 or A5283. But if there's kids that are over there and they're Tempe residents, even though they go to a Mesa school district, yeah, I don't have, but as long as you could qualify that they're Tempe residents, that we're using Tempe's tax dollars, Tempe's hard-earned tax dollars on Tempe residents.
And Mayor, one of our number 1 criteria on our eligibility list is child must reside in the city of Tempe, and I'm not proposing changing that. I think the programs that we're funding, it has to be.
I think if they're willing to help with that, I think it may help kickstart what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, just got to make sure that as long as it's Tempe kids and.
Sure.
Councilman Keating and Councilman Navarro.
I think it's a great idea as well, especially if it can be used to kind of further Mesa's exploration of pre-K in their city. My one concern is what the mayor brought up, so sounds like that's taken care of. So I think it's a great idea.
And is there a threshold? So let's say, how many kids are supposed to be in a class? 15?
18.
And then let's say there's 10. Then what do you do?
Yeah, Mayor, and obviously this idea is not fully hatched, and I think it's we're very, very early. I've only talked to Dr. Count about this because it just came up in the conversation. I mentioned to one council member who I ran into at an event the idea that this might possibly come up, but it's not anywhere near a fully hatched idea. But if we were going to do it, I think the cleanest would be that we would have 18 Tempe students, and that we would have 18 Mesa students, and that we would use potentially 2 classrooms there. And if we did that, we would put up the $140,000 for our students, and they would put it up for their students.
Councilman Navarro?
No, I think that's a great idea. And just the intergovernmental agreement, I don't know all the loopholes on that one, but I like where you're going on the whole thing. The other questions I had, was Laird School was mentioned as one of the sites?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was the North Gym pitched, do they have availability to establish one class?
At the North Side Multi-Gen?
Yeah.
Right now, we have Head Start is the early childhood program that's in the North.
Room-wise, though, then do we not have space there? Is that what I'm trying to say?
Do we have space?
I don't know. We'd have to look and see. I'm not sure if that would be a question for community services.
Right, and that's just to hit that zip code area. If there is a possibility with that, I think that's great. The other thing is and you mentioned it, trying to hit those private funds that could help support this program. I know when we initially started this conversation, they had some businesses that potentially were going to be lined up. I really would like to engage that because there are those shortfalls that we might be coming across, or there might be the ability to really kind of shrink the gap on what the city has to contribute and really make this a public-private partnership, which would be very strategic. And I think there's a lot of buy-in on that, especially on the corporate levels, seeing the benefit of what we can do, especially if it's a high-quality program. I like to also give credit to like Jerry Brock, who gave $10,000 towards this program already that's sitting there to be used for it. So I know there's more people out there, and I think we just really need to kick it into high gear and make sure we can get it.
I think that's the task of our committee. Councilmember Cubey?
Question for Councilmember Shapira. Are the classrooms at the Mesa Center already renovated? We wouldn't have to have the cost of, so there's a benefit there as well?
Mayor and Councilmember Cubey, it's a 0 to 5 center, so in order to be licensed, they have to meet the same requirements that our sites would be expected to meet. So I haven't visited the site, but I would assume that the classrooms are already set up for that since they are already licensed.
Excellent. It's a great idea.
Early, very early idea, but I wanted to make sure you all felt good about it before we went any further on it.
And Councilmember Shapiro, can you talk about the potential for the mini town hall as well?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Cubey, Mayor. So Arizona Town Hall this year is really focused on early childhood, and they're, pardon me, I believe looking at doing 3 mini town halls across the state related to early childhood issues. You know, I think there's probably no better place in Arizona than Tempe right now to do one of these town halls. And so I know Councilmember Cubey has been communicating with them a little bit about what that might look like. And so I would hope that the council would have an interest in potentially our city being a host of one of those mini town halls. There is a cost associated with it, and we're looking for sponsors right now, so we're not looking for any funding from the city for it. We're hoping that we can cover it with outside costs, but obviously wanted to kind of float that by the council first to make sure that you all felt like that was a good thing for our city to be involved in.
The only thing that I would, and that becomes a legal issue probably, is with the cost. I don't know if we should pay for any of the cost to have it because of the position you're running for.
You know,
And
I was saying we
like a
wouldn't pay
campaign
for the
contribution.
cost. I was specifically saying we wouldn't pay for the cost.
I would look at to see if we're not violating any ethics rules or anything of that nature.
And I've spoken with Tara Jackson, the Arizona Town Hall Executive Director, and the sponsorship pays for facilitation, and they look at donors to provide food and that sort of thing, not the city, but just businesses, and they work on that as well. But they need to, be able to fund the facilitation, the meeting, and the materials and that kind of thing.
Judy?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Our office would be happy to take a look at that and provide a legal opinion to the council.
I'm not saying there is an issue. I'm just saying you don't want something to come back.
No, get it.
Councilman Navarro?
Just a thought, and the garage in the hall would kind of brought it to my interest, but obviously the city has space, and I'm just curious if there is city space out there that's available that could probably host a classroom for at least a semester, maybe 2. And I think of the area over here, and I have no idea what's going on with it. But if we can explore those resources out there, I think that'd be very strategic.
Yeah.
Mayor, to Councilmember Navarro's point, the difficulty is the licensing, of course, as you know. And, you might remember when we first formed the work group, we talked about Mitchell School. And, there's still a possibility there. I mean, we own the building, and they have classrooms that are not really used during the school year. The difficulty is with the licensing requirements, the classroom has to be, I believe, connected to a fenced-in playground. Is that a part of the licensing requirements?
Playground would need to be fenced.
Yeah, and so that's, when you talk about the transit center, yeah, that'd be a great idea, but there has to be a playground, it has to be fenced in, and then there has to be, there also has to be specialized plumbing, there has to be like the tiny toilets and
Plan
things
the
like
train
that.
tracks?
So even if we did Mitchell School, so Mitchell School is a possibility, but it would be
You get to fence it.
costly. It would be
Yeah,
very
it'd be-
costly to renovate.
Got it.
Anything else?
No?
All right, we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item is a cooperative procurement contracts. Mr. Green, I think he's here. Look, he's wearing a green shirt.
Mr. Green's got green on.
Did you plan that?
All part of the plan, Mayor, yes.
Money.
Good evening, Mayor Mitchell, council members, Michael Green, Procurement Administrator for City. And we were asked to submit a brief memo to council regarding our use of cooperative procurements. And we've turned that in. The city historically spends around 20% of our total procurement spend through cooperative procurement organizations. There's a lot of cooperative organizations available to us throughout the country, and we've pretty much focused on 6 or 7 that we feel comfortable with as far as the processes they use and the rigor of their procurement processes and their ultimate product as far as the pricing that's available. And so we do try to use those whenever we can. Certainly we want to look to Tempe businesses that are represented under those cooperatives and other issues as well, just to make sure that we're providing the best recommendation to council for those contracts. And I'd be more than happy to entertain any questions on our approach on that.
Mr. Granville.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So the way this came about was actually Vice Mayor Arredondo Savage pointed out, and her and I got talking, that in one of our cooperative procurement agreements, in the initial version, there was a Tempe vendor available but not selected. And typically for these cooperative agreements, the things that are being purchased are fungible, right? It's not like you're painting a painting. It's cars or vests, bulletproof vests, or things where one vendor is all selling the same kind of product. And the thing that we talked about is we just wanted to bring it up briefly, but it sounds like it's addressed, but to make sure that you guys are comfortable that if there is a Tempe vendor on that list of 6, 8, 10 vendors under that cooperative procurement, that they would, assuming that the items are all like in nature and like in price because it's a cooperative purchasing agreement, that the Tempe vendor would just always be one of the ones that was selected.
But
Did I summarize it well?
Yeah,
Vice Mayor?
that's perfect. That was perfect, yeah.
When we have an option on a cooperative contract, if we do, sometimes we don't. It could be just a single award, and we're locked in as long as we think it's a good recommendation to council. But if there is an option, then we would want to be able to review those companies and evaluate the products that they're offering, maybe their reputation or their service. So we'd always want to be able to use that to make sure that we're providing you with the best recommendation, and certainly we would lean to Tempe companies where those things are even.
Where the state permits it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, next item on our agenda is our workforce opportunities for people with disabilities. This is a new item for council consideration. Vice Mayor Arredondo Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Really quick. I mean, I hope you guys all had an opportunity to kind of read through this, and I think it kind of speaks for itself. But I just want to give you a little history. It was not a few months ago. I was actually here in these council chambers attending one of our Who's Your Neighbor program. I don't know if you've all had the opportunity to attend one, but they're very good. And was sitting in the back row actually with Rosa and Parrish, and one of the things that actually what they were talking about was creating welcoming spaces for individuals with autism. And it was a really great program. I learned a lot of things. Of course, you all know I have a niece that has autism, and so I'm always very interested in what we can be doing or we're not doing. And one of the things that they really talked about was volunteer work opportunities for a lot of people that have disabilities. There are just not enough options for them to be able to have the experience and to create the skills so they can then be ready for the workforce. So we got kind of together after that and talked with Michelle Stokes, who's here too, and said, hey, this looks like something that we should be doing. We always take the opportunity to recognize other businesses that are doing these things. And of course, we don't discriminate when it comes to hiring, and we should all be very proud of that. But at the same time, I think we can be doing more to encourage more employment for those individuals that do have disabilities. So I think this would be a really great way for us to create a program that would allow us to take the time to share some of the skills and the experiences that we have right here with our own Berry staff to really get these people to have a different opportunity and learn a little bit more about what happens within the city. So hopefully I summarized that well enough.
I think it's great. If you need help, I wouldn't mind helping you.
I love it. I would be great. I mean, it kind of goes with everything that we've been doing too. I'm sorry, Randy.
I also think it's great. Would like to help out as well.
No, I love it. I think it would be really great. I just want to give a thumbs up and a shout out to Michelle, and thank you for everything that you've been doing. I know David and I are working on the adaptive parks, and she's been really instrumental about really helping us identify some of the things that we can improve upon. And just everybody is really wanting to make some changes. And so I just want to say thank you guys so very much for everything. And this just goes with everything I think that we're trying to do when it comes to, inclusion, equity, and diversity, and just really being able to bring those pieces together. And I just want to note for the record, there's one group that we left off the bottom, and it was not intentional. But our Commission on Disability Concerns, they were not intentionally left off, but of course we will be working with them moving forward. You guys are good with that? Yeah? Okay.
Great. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is our items in progress. Is there any items in progress anyone would like to have an update on? Yes, Councilmember Cubey.
Or just a little update about the Animal Protection Working Group that Councilmember Keating and I serve on. So as you may or may not know, Tempe has, I think, the lowest licensure rate for dogs of any city in the valley. So, and that's connected to we have a higher transient population because of our student population and such. And so we really, that really impacts, you make a straight connection between our poverty level as well and our low licensure rate because it costs $17 to license a neutered pet. So we've been talking in our working group, and we today met with Mary Martin, who's the director of the Maricopa County Animal Care and Control. She came from the city of Santa Fe, where she led a no-kill shelter to great success, and she's working on that same goal for Maricopa County. So she's very excited. We got not a signed commitment, but a real interest in working with Tempe in a pilot program where we would have a pet ID tag that would be connected. There would also be a Maricopa County license. It would serve the same effect, and it would be a little tag that would have a Tempe dog and use our new logo, maybe with a little bone added or something. But we realize this is only a small part of it, and just making sure that dogs are tagged is a small part of dog security. But we want to also look at getting spay and neutering services and chip services, inexpensive chip services to especially our vulnerable populations. And they're willing to really work with us on a program where we wouldn't have to pay for the pet ID tags, but we might want to do some piloting in certain neighborhoods to see if we could really increase the rate of chip and neutering, spay and neutering for our Tempe dogs and Tempe residents. Not our residents, the dogs. We don't want to neuter our residents. That wouldn't be good.
Can you identify like hotspot lost, areas? Is that the way to?
It's a really good question. It's a really good question. I'm not sure. I mean, where animal control is picked up, I imagine that's capturable. Did you hear that, Kristen? Kristen is an unbelievable aide and brings so much expertise in the whole animal protection world. But Councilmember Savage asked if there was a possibility of finding out where the hotspots are where more dogs are lost in Tempe. I know that Mary Martin's going to get us all the stats about Tempe in as much detail. We didn't ask that question. But she was very enthusiastic in saying, I hear so much about Tempe and the fact that you are interested and you want to lead the way. This is something we could take in a small way and then go bigger in the county. And I guess Santa Fe has the same population basically as Tempe. So she saw that connection. And so I think this is the beginning of a really beautiful relationship and partnership with Mary Martin and Maricopa County. And so we want to continue to work on with that. And we may investigate other tag. We've been talking to one tag ID program, and they have very unique offerings. And so we want to pursue that and see if there's other companies out there that do the same thing. But there's a great potential there. So
sounds good.
Any questions?
Yeah. Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll go to mayor's announcements and manager announcements. Happy Flag Day. Today's Flag Day, if you guys don't know that. And I want to, what is this? Nope. I just want to wish all the fathers out there Happy Father's Day on Sunday.
You can do that tomorrow too, because we'll be back.
That's right. I forgot. We will be back. All righty.
In case we forget.
Mr. Manager, do you have any announcements?
Not this time, thank you.
With that, we are adjourned.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.